Hey folks, and welcome to TK Power Sports. Now I know Argo makes all kinds of different vehicles today, but when you say the name Argo, this is what you picture. 8 wheels and fully amphibious, and in our case today, a full set of tracks. That is the Argo Conquest Pro 950, and in this video I'm going to show you all the features, and then we're going to take it for a ride, and I'll tell you all about it. Let's start by going over the size. So this Argo Conquest comes in with a length of 125 inches, a width at 65 inches, and an overall height at 49 inches. Ground clearance is listed at 9 inches with just the tires, but 10 inches once you add the tracks. And an interesting number that Argo lists is ground pressure once you have the tracks on, and that comes in at 1.06 PSI. Now another interesting number is the load capacity. This thing can take up to 1,210 pounds on land, although if you're taking it in the water, the load capacity falls down to 510 pounds. And for towing capacity out back, that comes in at 2,000 pounds. So let's walk around on this unit now and look at all the features. And I do have to mention, this is the Pro model. So this is essentially the one they're trying to sell to businesses. So it gets some upgrades, such as a standard roll cage. You can get a roll cage on your Conquest, but on the Pro, once you step up to that, it is standard. And then all this stuff up front, you are getting a rack right up here, so if you need to strap things down. And then this big front bumper, which is going to protect you, and also houses a 4,000-pound winch. So all of this stuff is coming standard on your Pro model. As we go around the side, I already mentioned it's got 8 wheels, 4 on each side. Those are 25-inch wheels, fit with beadlock rims, so those wheels can go down to 1.5 PSI if you want them to, or those tires I should say. And then today our model is fit with this 18-inch wide rubber track system, which I'm really curious to feel. Now when you put the tracks on, Argo recommends that you don't go into water. These are not amphibious, and that has everything to do with the paddles and then the design of the tread on the tires. Those tires, it's a proprietary tread which is specific to Argo, and it's all about propelling this thing forward. So it should still float with the tracks, it just isn't going to go anywhere because it's not using the tire tread, it's using the tread here on the track. So anyways, my point there is we're not going to actually float this thing today, sadly, but you could if you didn't have those tracks on it. Now because this is the Pro as well, we're getting this steel dump bed on the back, and this dump bed is actually powered, so no lifting required here by me. I'll show you that right now. And look at that, it really does dump to quite a great angle. And then what I really like is underneath the dump bed, you reveal storage area. There's no engine in the back, it's up front. So yes, once you dump, that thing is just pure storage down there below, which is pretty handy if you need to dump some stuff in there. Now, as we get back here to the back end, I have to talk about the trailer that they brought out today. This is the 8x8 amphibious Argo trailer, and it's really simple. This is the tub that underpins that Argo Conquest. So essentially they just take the bottom half of it, which is sealed up to be amphibious, and they make it into a little trailer here. I love this idea. If you're going out in the bush with a machine like the Conquest, you're probably bringing a lot of stuff. In this case, we're hauling around an Argo generator here today. It's a big beefy generator. But yeah, you're probably bringing a lot of stuff, and maybe you don't want to dump it. Well, you can drop it in your trailer, and if you have to cross a river or a stream on your way, you don't have to worry about that. So this is a really cool enhancement that you can add behind your Argo, and I appreciate that as well. And if you're wondering about capacity, the dump bed can handle 800 pounds, while the trailer is rated for 1,300 pounds on land and 1,100 pounds in the water. I have to speak quickly to this hitch setup too, because it really is clever. There are 3 different points right here which can articulate, so essentially this trailer can move in any direction, including side to side, and you never have to worry about the stress that it would put on a traditional ball hitch. And yeah, this is all about going off-road. Argo realizes the places this machine and this trailer are going are pretty gnarly, and none of them are flat, so we have this pretty unique hitch setup here. So I want to show you the interior now, but before I climb in, let me peel up the seat so you can see what's underneath. And this seat's actually hinged, which is nice, so it's not going anywhere. And you're just getting a big old storage bin down here. Nice to throw things like tow straps, whatever else you might need to carry. So nice to have extra storage. And then actually you can reach back here and get to your rear storage as well. It's underneath your bed. So if you have things up in the front here, you can actually access them through a little pass-through. Now, as I climb in, you have to notice the sort of sill here is wide, but then once you add the tracks, it gets even wider. So it is a bit of a pain to get into. Just step right up on the track, and then it's a big step in. But once I'm in here, no problem, I fit okay. And, you know, pretty basic interior, everything's understandable. It's very much ATV style handlebars, even with the start-stop button and the kill switch down here, reminiscent of any ATV you've ever been on. All of our controls are over here on the right, so we have our horn, you have your dump box control. There is a bilge pump here because we're amphibious. Couple of USB-A ports, which I like. The winch control. This one is interesting. This machine has automatic chain oiling. So you switch that and it will actually oil up your chains. Argo recommends every 3 hours of use. You want to hit that and make sure everything's getting lubed up. And then your shifter, a little bit different, is down below here. So that's forward, neutral, reverse. And then the little lever here is your low and high range. Finally, for storage, a cup holder on either side. And then a very traditional spot for your glove box, plus a little driver's side glove box as well. They're not very deep, but still nice to have some at-hand storage. Now I can't wait to feel what this thing feels like out there on the trail. So let's go for a ride. All right, now it's time to go for a ride here in the Conquest 8x8. So the first thing I want to do is just see if we can do a zero turn. Now the one thing I already know about this unit is you do kind of have to steer with the throttle a little bit. The more input on the throttle you have and the more speed you have, the easier that turn's going to be. So we'll build up a bit of speed and then we'll see if we can go all the way around with it. Hello, so yeah, definitely sort of halfway through that turn, I had to kind of throttle up. I had to put even more throttle into it than I expected. And then you saw we kind of came off the road into this off-road section, and this thing is rough. There's no two ways about it, because of course there's no suspension here. The only suspension we have is the tires. And because we're running the track system, the tires do have to be inflated to a certain PSI. So with the tracks, we're probably even a little rougher than we would be if we just had those tires. And frankly, the tracks are not really designed for what we're doing today. We're out here in this tall grass and these bulrushes, but everything underneath is fairly dry. If you are running in deep mud or especially in the snow, these tracks can really present themselves. But even doing that turn, it just highlights how different this vehicle is. You'd never want to take a side-by-side and just buck it into a full turn at speed like that. But the Argo, you don't have to worry. It's so wide, so planted, but the center of gravity is still so low that it'll just turn on the spot even if you're moving at speed with no problem. So the other thing that's kind of unique, I should also preface, so my experience in an Argo is like a 1970s classic Argo. Dad actually rebuilt one of these when I was a little kid. You can see it right here. So that's the last time I drove an Argo like this, and his Argo was still the two-stick system. Grab the right one to brake the right side, grab the left to brake the left. Very sort of simple. This is not like that. These new Argos use what's called the Admiral transmission. So that braking from side to side is actually happening inside of that transmission. And what that allows you to do is be more progressive with the steering. The old style essentially is you have 0 or 100% braking and nothing in between. Here, I can dial in just a little bit of a turn and it will respond. So like this right here, I'm barely turning it, but the unit is turning. And that's something on these new Argos that really shows itself off. Now I say new, the Admiral transmission's been around since like 2008-ish, so it's not really that new, it's just my experience in one of these. But that's the key here that I'm feeling is it's not that tough to kind of figure out how this works. And it's a handlebar system, just like any ATV you've ever ridden in, so you don't have to worry about getting comfortable with a joystick, with a two-stick system. And here, I want to turn on the spot. Oh yeah, I really had to throttle into it here to be able to get it turning where I wanted it to turn. But yeah, you can really be kind of delicate with the steering, and it does respond to you rather quickly. Now, it's still a little jerky when you are steering, but again, less so than what I remember in those old systems. So the smoothness and sort of the ease to operate is definitely standout in this new Conquest. Now, I think the major point that has to be made, you can see what we're running in here. I'm running in weeds and bulrushes that are extremely tall. I don't know what's underneath them. I truly don't know what's down there. It could be mud, it could be soft, it could be hard. But with an Argo like this, it almost doesn't matter what's down there. And that's the entire point of a vehicle like this, is you just point it at just about anything. Uh-oh! And you should be able to get off. So here is one of the issues with an Argo. I'm a little high-centered right now. So because of the clearance, you can get hung up right in the middle, and that's what I've done here. Let's see if I can save myself, because I don't want to have to get towed out. Hello, okay, we made it off. So yeah, that perfectly illustrated one of the issues with an Argo is you don't have a ton of ground clearance. So if you do get something right up underneath that tub, you can kind of lose traction with the ground. However, I'll also say that I never really had fear of rolling one way or the other. It's so wide and so low, so you don't have to worry about that. But I am gonna have to figure my way out of here now. Just like that. So there is a bit of a learning curve because this thing is just not like any other off-road vehicle you've ever driven. But once you get a feel for it, man, it just feels like it will go absolutely anywhere. Now the unit we're in today is the Pro model, and because it's Pro, it's much more geared toward businesses. You know, mining, exploration, hydro companies, power companies, stuff like that. So because we have the roll cage and because we have that steel dump bed, Argo doesn't recommend that you take this one into the water because the center of gravity is so much higher than on the standard unit. So I can't actually go out there and float it today. And we have the tracks, those aren't meant for the water either. But if you bought just the regular Conquest without all this stuff, yeah, you're also fully amphibious. So that's sort of the overall feel here is you can just take this thing anywhere and you're going to be able to figure it out. Now, on the downside, and there's a couple, I've already mentioned sort of the overall jerkiness, not the smoothest machine. The other one, you've probably already heard it, it's loud. This thing is just clattery. The engine is loud, sounds like a tractor. It's not a very nice, it's not a horrible exhaust note, but it is a little bit grating. And we've only been out here riding for, 20 minutes, half hour. If I was working with this thing 8 hours a day, yeah, I do wish it was a little quieter. And then ergonomically, the width is plenty. The seat doesn't come that high up your back. And then there's just not a ton of leg room here. So I do have a little dead pedal, but I just feel like my knees are being a little squished. So it might not be the most comfortable vehicle you've ever sat in either. But when you're out there going through the swamp and going pretty much anywhere, I don't think you're going to worry about that. Well, folks, we are coming to the end of this one. I do have to drop the price on you right now. And remember, this is the Pro model, so it is really being marketed to businesses, things like mining, exploration, and there's some of the companies that can afford it because this costs north of $50,000. So it's not gonna come cheap, but what you're getting here is a truly unstoppable machine. There is a learning curve. If you're coming from a side-by-side or an ATV, this is nothing like that, but this will also do things that those machines could never even dream of doing. So when it comes to just hardcore off-road, this has to be one of the best machines out there. So yeah, that's it for this one. Now please drop in the comments, let me know your thoughts on this Argo Conquest. As always, while you're down there, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, hit join to become a member, and then come right back here to TK Power Sports to see what we're testing next. See ya.